Hello everyone, this is Jacek. This is my first English video on my channel, but I would like to create more of those in the future. Nevertheless, this is a kind of a copy of my Polish video already done yesterday, but I wanted to do it in English as well to reach a broader audience. So we have a Alien Skin Exposure 3, the X3, the newest update on the Exposure series software, and you may have known this software as a mostly plugin software for creative effects, but since version 2 it has been upgraded with a lot of controls also for RAW support, and in X3, the newest version, we also have the support for healing brush and adjustment brush. So today I would like to focus more on a portrait retouch of one particular picture, and this seems to be a quite nice alternative to Lightroom, because first of all, it has now full RAW support and all the adjustment layers brushes that we can have in Lightroom, but also it combines some Photoshop abilities. So let me just drag and drop one of the pictures that I want to retouch. And this is the RAW straight out to camera. And as you can see, the colors are already rendered by the software. You don't have a calibration like in Lightroom or Capture One. So the profile is what you get, but it still seems nice, very neutral, so I am okay with this. And first of all, what I like to do is just bring down the highlights a little bit, bring up shadows a little bit, and maybe cool down the picture just a tad. And we will come on, maybe just the highlights were too low. Okay, and now I would like to do some basic retouch on the skin and remove this part of this nasty hair, this one straight hair. So we go to the spot healing brush, and I am using the heal option, not the clone one. The feather is fairly reasonable, fairly low. The size you can control with the scroll wheel as it is in Lightroom. Opacity 100% because we want to remove it, but what is much better than in Lightroom is the speed of this brush. So even if you have a really powerful machine, to be honest, Lightroom is still quite slow. Even on one picture, even on adjustment. This is a D836 megapixel photo, so it has some information in it. But here, as you can see when I paint, there's no lag in dragging the brush, so there's no lag in the brush stroke itself. In Lightroom, when you drag the brush, there can be lag already there. So here you just brush, then the software thinks and calculates the area which it wants to replace. So this is much faster. And by the way, when you press space to move around the picture, you will also, and you can scroll as well, you will also activate the before and after, which is kind of annoying when you're moving around the picture all the time. So I will make the brush much smaller, and now I will just retouch the skin from all the little things that we want to remove, and you can see already how quickly it reacts to all the brush strokes and how quickly it renders and replaces all the little things. To be honest, the more we retouch, the more processing heavy it will be, so you need to keep that in mind. So before and after, and if we switch off the brush, we can see now without the masking the marching ends. So I will also remove this one, just a little bit here, over there, this one as well. If we're removing already, let's go nuts. So just a couple of things. Okie dokie, before let me just do this. Okay, so maybe just one more thing here and there. And if we look at the before and after. Okay, I'm happy with that. We will fix some of it later as well with the brush. And now let's go over to the brush. Just collapse this one, and this is all done. Here we have also the layers panel, and this is all done on the basic, the first one. It's like a background layer in Photoshop, but to be honest, it's still done. Everything is done on a raw file. So we are going to the adjustment brush. Now here you have, with the gradients with the brush, you have the option checked already on new layer. So anything you do now, it will be done on a new layer automatically. So you can select a new preset or just move the sliders below as much as you want, but I will do a dodge, a very subtle dodge, so the flow will be quite low. And you can see here that it's not doing brush strokes with your preset. In the miniatures here, let me just large thumbnails. So here you can see clearly that it created a new copy of the raw, but with adjustments made for this brush. So this is a new copy of this picture with adjustments. It's not a physical copy, it's just a raw virtual copy like in Lightroom, but with all the adjustments, and it is masked out. It has the mask all blacked out, so you don't see anything. And now what you do is just remove the mask, so it is like revealing it. Let's make it maybe a small again. It's just a revealing like in Photoshop, so just control the opacity of the reveal with your flow. So I will want to lighten the eyes, of course. Eyes are the what to the soul? Gate? Image? Something to the soul. Never mind. And we will do a slightly lower flow and do some dodging underneath the eyes, just a little bit, just to fix some shadows. Let me just went too far with this one. Just Control Z, undo, it will render it again. Perfect. Maybe not perfect, but good enough. Of course we don't want to good enough, we want it to be very nice. Okay, so we have the before and after, before and after. If it's too strong, you have the opacity here, so you can go with opacity and lower it. So it's always nice to exaggerate and then pull it back a little bit. So now we go to, let me find it, where was it? The clarity. Yes, the clarity brush, because I want to give the eyes a little bit pop, little bit of a pop. Yeah, so let's just do a brush stroke and a little bit on the lips to accentuate the highlights and shadows, the structure of the lips. So if we go, and also on the left here you have like a toggle on and off switch for the layer, so we can go off and on, and you can see that the clarity itself gave it a little bit of a the pop, whatever. A little bit shine in the eyes, so they are a little bit more lively. And as well, while we are on the subject of clarity, the clarity slider in the exposure works really nice, and that's a good thing, because we can, if you used Lightroom a long time ago, you can probably remember when you pushed the clarity slider all the way to the right, it created halos, stuff like that. If we go to the first layer and just push the clarity all the way to the right, it will accentuate and exaggerate the skin texture, of course, but you don't have that prominent halo as you had in Lightroom. So this works more like the new clarity slider in Lightroom currently, so it is much better now. And also, yes, I wanted to go to the color tab because we also have detail for sharpening. There are plenty of tabs here, but I will not go over them in this video. I want to only just do a quick retouch, although it will be probably half an hour long. But in this section you have the division to colors as you have in Lightroom, but here you have the saturation of the colors, and I want to go to greens and pump some saturation into those leaves in the back, and maybe oranges, bring down a little bit to soften the skin, and go back here to increase the vibrance for the overall image. Okay, very nice. And we have before and after. Okay, great. And also now let it render a little bit. Yeah, since we already did a lot of adjustments, now the rendering time will be slower, but it's still quite snappy. Now we go to something that is really wrong to do. So soften skin. If you don't want to go to Lightroom to retouch the skin with dodge and burn and all the high-end techniques, to be honest, this soften skin brush is much better than the Lightroom soft skin adjustment, because the soft skin adjustment in Lightroom brings the clarity all the way down. Here you go to I think that either focus or detail, and you bring the blur all the way up, so this image is all blurred underneath. And now we just reveal the blurred skin, but this is not like a surface blur which looks similar to the lowered, which was it, clarity. This is more like a soft Gaussian blur, and with a low flow we can just paint it in a little bit and no one will notice. It will be our little secret, so don't panic. I know that blurring is not perfect, believe me. I have a lot of other videos, but in Polish, about how not to blur but to retouch. Even though this we want to stay within one window, within one software program, so let's just use it right now. Okay, perfect, we have it here. Let's lower the opacity to 63. Perfect. Now we can move back a little bit. We have before, after, before, after. So we cooled down the photo just because I know I want to use some filters that will warm it up. But now we have a nice base. This is already a nice picture, and it could use a little bit more of, I don't know, focus on the model. So we now go to, again, to the brush, but we go to the add gradient, and if we click on it, it will automatically add a new layer and the gradient will be created. If I make the thumbnails large again, you will see that when I move the gradient circle, it will move the mask. So let me just adjust it. So just adjust it. Let's just adjust. And the feather, yeah, perfect. Now what I can do is lower the exposure a little bit, but now it looks wrong. I don't want it to be affecting the middle, I want it to affect the outside. So what we need to do is click invert mask, and now we have a nice vignetting which will bring more focus to our model. Of course it is very subtle, so it will not make drastic difference now, but it will be essential when we go before and after on the entire picture. And also what I want to do is bring up the saturation on the same layer, so only the outside will be more saturated. Okay, perfect, because it will bring out the warmth in the leaves in the background. And we go, let's hide it to small, And we have now before and after, before and after. So we cooled down the face a little bit, but we brought out a lot of saturation and defocused the background just slightly, and we retouched the eyes, the face, and we have a very nice base. Now what we can do is add layer, because once you click on the filter, not all of them will apply on the new layer right away. It may affect the layer that you have already selected. So we go new layer, and then we go with this filter, which is a Kodak Kodachrome 25 Sharp Golden. And this is the standard filter that is built in the color section in the color film slides. So you not only when you save your preset, it will give you this exact path to the filter that you already modified, but this is a quite low opacity filter, a warming filter built into the exposure. And when you go to all of the filters, there are tens or even, I don't know, maybe hundreds of filters here. Very, very nice looking filters. They are very professional, very well made, and exposure was known as the perfect software for plugins for film simulation. And now not only you have the film simulation, which is the core feature of the entire software, but you have the full raw control with healing brush and adjustment brush as well. So now we have this filter on a completely new layer. We go before, after. So as you can see, the warmth came back. I like the filter itself, and it also gives like a little bit of contrast as well. But now I want to go on a new layer again and go a little bit cooler with this one. This is a cross, I think this one, or maybe this one. This is a bit cooler. This is much more intense. No, I will go with, I think this one. Yeah, this will bring a little bit of glow in the face because it has a increased contrast. When you go to the tone curve, we can see that the tone curve is a little bit higher, so somewhere around the mid-tone, so the face will be glowing more, will be lighter. But also there is on the blue channel, there is a little bit of increase in the shadows and also in the highlights, I think, for the, yeah, a little bit. And we can also modify it, so we can go even a little bit more cross-processing way and bring that blue in the shadows even more. Yeah, something like this. This is quite strong, so now before and after gives much more prominent difference. Go to RGB, but of course we can lower the opacity, which is always a nice feature. And I barely use my presets on full 100% opacity. Those are already saved presets, my personal presets, which have lowered overall intensity. But in the old days of exposure, the first one, you have to lower the overall intensity for the entire picture. Now with the layers, I think that already in the X2 we had layers, you can control the opacity independently. So you have before and after, before and after. And what we can do is, even on this layer, lower the highlights a little bit if they are blown out too much, and we have before and after, before and after. And this is all done in one interface. We did not go to Photoshop for the skin retouch. It was quick enough, so it makes me want to do it inside this program, because in Lightroom, honestly, it can be done. But it's so slow that it's annoying. That's why in Lightroom I usually just develop my raw file, move it to Photoshop, back to Lightroom for some final touches or export. Here we go, also Control E, export, same location as original, just create a subfolder with the exposure suffix, add exposure to the name, do it in the JPEG, highest quality, sRGB color space, so it will have the color space in it. Let's do it 1500 pixels. It has already remembered my previous settings. Resolution 120 pixels per inch. For me, that's a quite nice resolution. And we hit export. It will pop up here once it exports it. It does it even though it's in a subfolder. It likes to do it because I think it's created a link. Yeah, I had it zoomed out. It created a link between the two. So now we have its processed file and a raw file with old and quite rendering because we did some stuff to it. Oh yeah, and 100%. We have the raw with all the layers, all the adjustments. We have it here. We can go back, we can cover it up, we can reveal more, we can do all the changes we need on a raw file itself. And we have, of course, the export, the JPEG already processed. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments below this video if you would like to see more English versions of my tutorials. With the exposure upgrade, I thought that maybe I would just re-record the new version of my tutorial for broader audience, especially because I know that the software is, the plugin is more, well, it's not a plugin anymore, it's a software, although it still works as a plugin. It's more popular abroad than in Poland. That was my take on it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, of course, give it a thumbs up if you really enjoyed it, leave a comment, and you can also subscribe for some behind the scenes stuff and maybe future English tutorials as well. Thank you very much, and until the next one. Bye!